What's going on, everybody? Happy Friday. It's 6:20 a.m., June 5th. My name is Amal, and I'm here to do your morning crypto analysis. So, price of Bitcoin currently at 97.11. Haven't seen a whole lot of movement. Looks like we kind of just stayed around this level and slowly started to roll over overnight. So, we're going to go over that a little bit. Before I do that, let's review some of our trades that we took in yesterday. All right. So I think yesterday on the advantage side, we took this quick long trade, and I even mentioned this yesterday in the live stream that I took. I took in a long around 95.92, as you can see. So more often than not, in our community, what I do typically is this is how I define a trade. I define how much I'm risking if I get stopped out, how risky of a trade itself is, what kind of trade it is, if it's a scalp long or short, entry, my typical target profit points, and then my stop. So this way I make it abundantly clear what my game plan is. A lot of people don't know that because they don't know how to develop game plans. All they look at is buying or selling because of FOMO or panic or whatever, okay? We don't do that in our community. What we do very well is define technicals, define fibs, define other reasons why we're getting in and out of trades, and then we trade based off that. Either our trade is validated and successful, or it's not. Okay, it's simply it's as simple as that. Okay, so after the price pushed up, as you can see, from 95.92, our entry point, we went all the way to about $9,700, pulled back a little bit. I just moved up my stop. This way I now have less risk, right? So my stop when I entered at 95.92 was 9,400. Then I moved it up to 9,500, and then price just kept zooming and zooming. It got to about 97.84, 98.50 or something. And so you could see over here, it went, all the way to 98.50, which is where I took profit. All right. And then I pretty much closed out my trade because I saw Ethereum starting to head down. And in my experience, whenever Ethereum leads Bitcoin, or I guess rather it sometimes leads Bitcoin, it's better to just, take profit or get out of the trade. And, for the most part, we didn't really do anything special. We pretty much headed back towards 98.50 again, but then started to roll over again. Okay. So I'm fairly glad and happy about that trade. We took profit, and I think we got a net profit of about, 2.6, 2.7%. First 70% of the position was right there at 98.50, and I think the remainder of the position I was out around 97.92. So yeah, overall 2.7% profit. Okay, and that was just a couple hours of work. All right, so these are the kinds of trades that we take in, and if you guys are interested in this kind of information, how we are thorough with our trades, why we get into our trades, and our game plan, we have a 50% off discount going right now for our Advantage membership, which is where I posted that trade in the Advantage side. So message me right here if you are interested. Second trade that we took yesterday was the euro dollar trade. All right, so euro dollar, we took profit at 0.23%. First take profit area. So that was when I was seeing something like this. So basically, for the last several weeks, euro dollar was actually consolidating and then started to move up. And my target profit was up here, but I was sized up a little bit heavier. So I said, you know what, let me just take some position off the table in profit. And then you could see this is where we entered right here on euro dollar. And we've been pushing up since. I think right now we're about 0.7, 0.8% still in profit. We're about right there. So yeah, so 0.75% in profit. So still going okay. That trade is still open, still have 50% on. But, we trade the FX markets, we trade crypto, and then Faisal over here, he trades equities, and he provides a daily analysis every single day, just like I'm doing right now for you guys. All right. He does it in a written format. And in the evening times, we do a live analysis for our Advantage members. All right. And then he puts on stock of the day. We also have, all this in the welcome channel. These are all the locked paid community channels, right? You have Bitcoin analysis where every single day You get multiple updates of what's happening in crypto. You get short-term, medium-term, and long-term. These are my position holds in spot. So if I'm buying Link and holding Link, or buying, some other altcoin, this is where I put in that information. We have the STO, ICO chat. We have leverage trading channels, where just like I showed you, the scalp that we took, that was in this channel. I'm still in a short, which is in this channel. If we want to trade alt leverage, that's in this channel. And then of course, we have a ton of traders from about 14 different countries with varying degrees of experience. And these people truly make the community awesome. And I'm really fortunate and glad that we have such a mature community that's not all about, shilling or constantly looking for buy or sell signals. These are people who want to educate themselves and get better, honestly, okay? And then of course we have the education section, which helps you get better as a trader or investor. And then on top of that, all these stock market channels, all these FX channels, and all these options channels as well. So this is what you get on the paid side. If you are interested, message me for that 50% off, okay? All right, so let's get to the analysis. So for the most part, over the last maybe 12, 16 hours or so, we kind of just moved sideways over here. As I've told you guys before, it's best to sometimes utilize this fixed range thing right here. All right, helps you understand, before we kind of, let's do it from this area to this area. So this sideways movement before we broke down or before we pushed up, where has a lot of the volume taken place? Well, it's taking place right there at 97.80, right? So if we come up towards that 97.80 area and we start to roll over again, chances are we're probably gonna take out this low, okay? I mean, unless we kind of put in, this kind of movement, pull back, and then start pushing up and out. But the one thing that I'm noticing on Bitcoin right now is that if you look on the 4-hour, I think it's very clear that the bears are starting to turn up the pressure and holding this line right here. Okay, this area right here is clearly a sign of defense from the bears. That comes from this area. Actually, we can even dial it back here, where this was the previous consolidation before we dropped down. These are all wicks up here, drop down. This is a fake out right here, so we don't even count this. But again, same thing, coming up into that supply and then dropping down again, okay? So the best way to look at this is still resistance, okay? I still want to be building a short position here. Alternatively, you can also look at this as maybe a head and shoulders pattern, kind of like this, developing. Now we can skip this wick right here because this was a lot of over leveraged traders, and I think a lot of open interest in longs was open in BitMEX, so that's why this whole thing happened, this wick. So this is your head, neckline right there, and this is possibly your right shoulder developing. Could be a broader right shoulder, but that's kind of how I'm seeing it. Unfortunately, the volume doesn't necessarily match, but that's probably also because, this was such a big short squeeze. But this is, in my opinion, definitely a head and shoulders looking pattern. And this is more appropriate right here because it's a top pattern. You don't draw head and shoulders at the bottom of movements. You draw them at the tops. So this to me is a little bit more appropriate. Okay, let's go to the daily right here. All right, nothing special on this daily right now. We still have about 12 and a half hours to go. So we'll see how it closes by the end of the day. But I've told you guys before how this candle right here is very analogous to this candle right here. And then we had a slow grind up and then drop down. Slow grind up, drop down. So I'm thinking we're kind of doing the same thing, right? The price movement and everything looks like a slow grinding movement. And if you look over here, right, it's a little bit more visible how it is a slow grinding movement because price, after a steep drop, it's kind of just grinded and grinded and grinded and grinded, okay? So I'm thinking that in this area right here, either we're going to start rolling over soon or maybe another day of grinding, pushing up a little bit higher. If we're simply looking at this from the standpoint of fibs, I've showed you guys this chart before. Where if you look at it from the fib perspective, it's quite easy, right? What we're doing is from this high to this low, the fib retrace back up is right at 50%. And if you could see, every single one of these rejections is right at 50%. So if this is the top, all right, well then we're ready for our rollover on the way down. But I don't think we've established that yet, okay? We have to break this key area right here because this was previous resistance. All we're doing is now turning into support. So if we start doing something like this, right? Like this, pull back down, and then boom, like that, then we're probably gonna at least head back towards this low, okay, at least. I don't know if that's going to happen as of yet. I think the bulls still have a little bit of pressure on their side. I think the bulls right now are still possibly thinking that they still have the upper hand or they still have the strength. But I really believe that the bears are really in control. I truly believe that. And the only way to prove me wrong, like I've stated many times before, is very simple. Okay, you break through this resistance and you're home free. I mean, it's open space all the way up. I would probably figure if we break through 10,500, I don't see us stopping anytime before at least 12 or 13,000. Okay, but until then, you're not going to convince me that we are bullish here. The best thing you could say is we're consolidating here, which technically yes, but we're still under resistance. And we've had some big sells right at the top. So this to me is the definition of distribution, okay? So that's how you're gonna convince me if you break up through 10,500, that resistance, then I'll be somewhat of a bull. Until then, I'm cautious, all right? Still nothing on the OBV. You could see again, OBV starting to roll over. I've told you guys this before. OBV is unbalanced volume. This is inflows that are coming into the asset to show you that if there's real guided movement in terms of money pushing it up. Money is not really coming in, okay? Money is either leaving or not coming in as heavy. So you can see right here, OBV rolling over. Yes, on this grinding movement, it may have been there, okay, which was this grinding movement, but now it's completely rolling over. So you got to be careful. And on top of that, I've also stated on the hash ribbons, okay? On the hash ribbons, we've already gotten the the minor capitulation signal right here, okay? Now, I have not developed this indicator. I haven't used it that much. I've only read one article on it. And the article is pretty simple, okay? This person who created this indicator simply stated that this has been contextually true since the 2013-2014 bear market. And it's very simple, that once you start getting this signal right here of capitulation, obviously there are multiple factors behind this. Once you start getting this signal, however, more often than not, what you're going to start experiencing is minor capitulation. So that means more and more miners are selling. Now, I'm going to give you a final piece of proof why miners are selling. All right, so yesterday in my live session, I talked about inflows coming into the exchanges. Inflows means that there is more Bitcoin being put onto the exchanges. You don't put Bitcoin onto the exchange to do anything else other than sell. So when we saw this big spike of inflows right here, guess where the price was? It was around this area right here. Or more clearly, it was around this area right here. So miners actually put that Bitcoin on the exchange, and I'll show you why. Here's the Bitcoin unknown mining pool 1 with outflows, meaning their outflows went to the exchange inflows. So you can see, look at the big spike. They put in about 2,300 Bitcoin onto the exchange right around when price was about 10,100 or so dollars, right around this rounded movement, which was, again, right around here. And then guess what? They sold, and boom, you saw this big drop, okay? Guess what's been happening since then? look at the inflows coming onto the exchanges. More and more inflows, more and more inflows. A spike right there, spike right there, spike right there, spike, spike, spike. So more BTCs coming onto the exchange. And in my opinion, it's probably coming onto the exchange to sell. And I've talked about many of the reasons why I believe Bitcoin is coming onto the exchange, because if you look at this production cost indicator, I stated that most miners right now, or rather a lot of them, are actually suffering because they cannot mine at current prices. Their total production costs are much higher. Total production costs include electricity and rent and insurance and the mining equipment costs, other contractual agreements that they have with other mining groups. So all that costs money. And you can't just be at a loss all the time. You have to sell Bitcoin to be able to pay off your bills. So when you sell Bitcoin, or rather when you have to pay off your bills, you bring that Bitcoin onto the exchange, just like I just showed you earlier. So that's what's happening, at least with Unknown Mining Pool 1. Alternatively, I've also heard the solution that miners are actually selling more Bitcoin to pressure the price down, so other miners who are more inefficient get kicked out, meaning they just can't mine anymore. So it's like a domino effect, right? One miner is trying to push the other miner out. So they bring Bitcoin onto the exchange to sell. They push the price down, which then the inefficient miners have to further sell more Bitcoin, which further sells the price down. Okay, so again, like I said, it's a domino effect, right? So this is what I'm still seeing, that there is more and more Bitcoin being sold. And this, to me, this larger area right here, let me turn off this production cost right here. This larger area right here, to me, still looks like distribution, all right? But that's pretty much it. I don't really have anything else to say other than that. I'll either be proven horrifically wrong or right in due time. I'd probably say over the next maybe 2-3 months if we start rolling back over. Okay. But that's it. Hope you guys enjoy the content. Hit the thumbs up if you do. If you are interested in trading with us, like I said, we have the 50% off. Come join or message me if you're interested. All right. Until then, y'all be careful, take care, and have a good rest of your Friday.